that name again?
I can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce anything.
Oh.
God damn it. No. Ilya Ivanov.
That's who we're going to talk about briefly, but it's going to go into a much bigger topic today on
it's going to be
the fauna.
fun. On what the fauna. Yep. And today is truly a what the fauna.
What the fauna moment. I'm Whitney, and this is
Genevieve. Or
and,
Jen.
we're on What the Fauna, just talking about random animal facts.
Welcome to our podcast. We love and adore you.
Yes.
Each and every one of you individually, we would like to snuggle. I prefer being the big spoon, but I'm flexible.
Are you now? Oh my!
Did I just get weird? I think I got weird. Anyone who has seen my husband, and no, please don't stalk my Facebook page, but anyone who's seen my husband knows that being the little spoon in my relationship, for me being the big spoon is really hard. It's more like a spoon and a giant mallet.
I also like being the little spoon.
You like being the little spoon?
I like being the little spoon, but it's very funny because I am also like 6'4" and
you're
a very large
like
man.
my husband. I wonder. I want to do a survey.
My wife's just on me like a backpack. It's basically what the situation is.
Like a little papoose.
Like a little backpack. So anyway, that name.
I wonder.
I'm making her say the name because I didn't even try to write it down because I'm like, the fucked up chimp human hybrid.
Human Z.
Super army bullshit guy.
I want to go back 1 second though. I want to poll our listeners. How many men like being the little spoon? I wonder.
That's a good question.
I wonder.
How many men want to be the little spoon?
I bet a lot of men. Put it in the comments. I bet that is a completely underrepresented group of big men who want to be the little spoon. But it is. Okay. Anyway, yes. So, our topic today, though, welcome to our podcast. It's all about fauna, aka animals.
Yes. I have a zoo. I worked in the zoo field, so that's where my expertise comes from. Both of us are big biology nerds. But we think we're funny. I think I'm funny. I am
hilarious, actually.
Something. We're just gonna put something.
We're something there. Our humor is not G-rated.
It is not G-rated. It's pretty much R and above, and also very stream of consciousness with a lot of ADHD shoved in there.
But I guarantee you're gonna say "what the fuck" or "what the fauna" at least once in every episode
about the subject or just one of us.
All that. So you're gonna learn something, and you're gonna laugh. If you don't laugh, you suck. I'm putting that blame on you. I'm not taking it today.
We're coming for you.
We're coming for you. We're gonna make you laugh. We're gonna make you laugh by being your spoon.
I just realized my mic was turned way down. I'm gonna turn that way up now.
All right. I like hearing my voice.
Yes.
So so today is our cool every iteration of 5. We're doing kind of more of a topic. Usually we do an animal and we talk about how awesome the animal is, how much we could learn from it, and also how the fuck did it do X, Y, and Z.
Whatever that. Which sometimes we don't have the answers anymore.
Sometimes we don't.
We're always learning.
Not just how, but why is it doing that? It's very odd. But today we're talking about it's a topic. So we're talking about hybridization. Specifically, we're gonna go off on tangents. We always do.
Yes.
But the human ape hybridization experiments, and we're gonna start with like the sensationalized the man, Ilya Ina. I fucked up his name.
Because I won't do it right.
Ilya Ivanov. He is a Russian biologist. Ivanov. There's a lot of V's in that name. For someone who has 2 V's in her name, I am now ripping on someone else.
Russian listeners are going to come at us about our pronunciation.
Help us out. It's Ivanov for the rest of the episode. Ivanov. All right. So he's the sensationalized guy. He's the one who, so Stalin told to make super hybrid human chimpanzee or human ape super soldiers that could eat garbage and live forever and dominate the world.
Would be dumb and just go with the
Soviet regime.
Yeah, the new communist regime situation going on at basically.
So Stalin is involved. The Soviets are involved. Apes and humans fucking are involved.
I will say we talked about this last time, and I was right. It wasn't quite.
It's not nearly
sensationalism.
No, it's not. It sounds like psychotically sensationalized, but let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
We're gonna start, like I said, with Ilya Ivanov.
Yeah.
Now he was born in the 1800s, like 1870. All right. Yep. So he went to university. He's a very well-educated, well-respected scientist of his time.
And
he was, and we are talking, 1901,
late 1800s, early 1900s. Basically, time frame.
I mean, kind of when he finished his schooling and really started breaking out on his own. We are into the 1900s.
Well, when did the Tsars fall?
The Tsar fell in 1918.
Okay, yeah. I always think that happened in the 1800s.
I know, right?
It's like the royalty of Russia lasted way longer than I thought.
So, I mean, we're talking about someone. So the premier group, society of the time, the center and hub of biomedical research at that time was in Paris. It was the Institut de Pasteur. I think I pronounced it right but we're gonna call it we're just gonna call it the Pasteur Institute because we're American.
Out in the pasture.
No. So I mean,
this is named after Pasteur, like
Pasteur. No, it's named after Louis Pasteur.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
It is,
yeah.
So this is biomedical research. This is the best of the best. So this isn't, and he was well respected. I mean, he actually studied with Pavlov and Whitney, being a dog
specialization. Pavlov, yes.
Yeah,
he's Pavlov daily.
He specialized and he worked with Pavlov, another Russian scientist.
Yep. Who was not actually studying behavior. He was actually studying digestive properties.
Yeah.
It's just that just kind of was a side.
That's what we remember.
Everybody remembers the behavior stuff.
And Ivanov was not necessarily in the beginning studying hybridization.
No.
He
was all about squirting juices in animals.
Oh yeah. So he specialized more in the farm areas. So he's
basically one of the runners of artificial insemination. Basically.
He is considered the founding father of it because
I wasn't sure if he was the founding father, but he definitely was one of. I don't know, but I don't know. I didn't.
Well, his research and his work led to the successful, a routinely successful artificial insemination.
Okay.
He specialized in number one, obtaining sperm.
Yes.
Which, I mean,
he's jacking off animals.
Kind of like, what, you were the one who came up with rub the prostate? Like, I'm not quite sure.
Let's tickle the prostate here.
Tickle the prostate.
He's the one who figured out how to tickle the bull's prostate and get that. Well, actually, I don't know. No,
we don't know if
doing the old mechanical method.
We don't know which method, if he was tickling the prostate or not. But
we didn't go that deep.
He did come up with a reliable way of obtaining sperm from farm animals, then preserving the sperm and disinfecting it. Those were the two really big ones. I think pretty much anyone can jack off. Well, maybe not everyone can jack off.
It's actually a skill. I'm going to say that is.
It's a skill. Okay. So obtaining the sperm isn't really the hard part, but preserving it.
That's what I learned in college.
Keeping the intramural or was that a class? Anyway, but he preserved it well enough because, like, once you get it, you've got the active live sperm and swimming around. Okay. But if you leave it on the just leave it over here for a day or two and then try to inject it into a female, it doesn't always work because the sperm, a lot of it has died.
Right.
So he was good at, his research led to preserving the sperm and then sterilizing it as well, or disinfecting it, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you don't really want to inject I don't know, decaying, rotting biological matter
the
into another creature. You don't want to do
that. The disinfecting would just be so that it lasts longer, really, is what it comes down to. Which, I mean, and here's an important quiz. What is one of the ingredients that the body produces into ejaculation to preserve the ejaculate? I'll give you a hint. It's why you're supposed to drink this kind of juice.
Spermaceti? No, I'm sorry. That's something totally different with a whale.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Vitamin C.
Oh, yeah!
People keep saying the pineapple juice thing to make it taste better. Because literally your body, the prostate actually puts vitamin C into it. And the reason it does is that acts as that, not vitamin C. My bad. Folic acid.
Oh, well, that's good for the baby too, and the woman. Yeah, okay.
So folic acid? Yeah. No, citric acid. Man,
Jesus Christ, man!
I got to get my shit straight. No, it's citric acid that's put into it. That's what it is. So citric juices. Okay, guys. So I told you this is going to be an ADHD train of consciousness. That's what my brain do. I say the wrong words, and then I try to find the right one. It's citric acid.
Citric acid. So everyone who needs to know, drink your citric acid. It will protect your sperm.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be pineapple juice. You can do orange juice and a few other. Anything with high citric counts, it goes to the prostate and then will be put in your ejaculate.
Ejaculate.
Yeah. But anyway, so he preserved.
Cool.
I'm curious what he used. I'm wondering if he just added more.
You know what? It was too much of a tangent to go down that route. So anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So he's getting massive funding. He's in Russia. He's working with farm animals. The royal regime is still going at this time. We're like 1905, 1910. Tsar Nicholas II is a big proponent of his work. The reason for this is Nicholas II is a big horse guy. And I don't mean horse guy like proposed like Catherine the Great. We're not talking about he loved
a lot of the Russian royalty were just big into like horse shows, horse racing. Everybody wanted to have the best,
the coolest, the
biggest, the strongest, the fastest.
I guess the problem is that a single male horse can only inseminate 20 to 30 female horses a year. So if you got this
because of the refractory period.
Yes.
That for those that don't know, a refractory period is how fast you can get it up again.
Yes. But not just get it up, but get it up with good swimmers.
And for the most part, usually all they monitor is
how fast
getting it up.
So but Nicholas II had say he had a really, really good horse, and he's like, I want to mate this with as many female horses as I can. And Ivanov says, hey, I can do 500 female horses a year with my method. I can take that one stallion and get 500 babies a year.
Yep.
And that's what he was doing. He was also doing it for cattle production. He was specializing in farm stock. And all of that kind of changed a little bit at one point. So in 1910, he was asked to present at the Congress of Zoologists. This is a huge fucking deal. It sounds like, the Congress. No, this is a gigantic symposium of the best scientific biological minds. And he presented his research on how it could be incorporated into a human-ape hybrid. How his techniques could be used to cross that barrier. And people were kind of like, I don't know.
And you know why he was doing that, though? There is a good reason why he switched that way.
Why?
Because of the fall of the Tsars.
No, well, this is 1910 that he presented this. The Tsars fell in 1918 is when the revolution happened.
So that's right. No, you're right. I did pull that up. He
presented the work, but the Tsars and everything were very closely related to like religion, and nobody would hear of it. Like Darwinism was still a taboo.
Darwinism, and that would prove that there's a link between.
Exactly. That would prove there's a link between humans and apes, and the religious people Still to this
no.
day.
And also,
to this day,
there was
not accept that.
There was also another reason that I read, because racism was also involved with this.
Oh,
so
heavy.
Guess who he wanted to impregnate?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because yeah, they're closer.
Well, no, he presented it this way to them.
Oh, in 1910 he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we might as well bring him up now.
Yeah, sure. So he also basically, he presented a group of humans that might be more susceptible.
Because back at the time, they thought that because of racism, Africans were closer to apes than white people were. So they were going to, unbeknownst to the women, impregnate the African women with
chimpanzee semen.
Yes, but one of the reasons also, there has the religious aspect, but there was also another aspect which had to do with trade, because they were doing a lot of trade with those African countries, and they thought it would cause a scandal, and then they would lose potential trade if it ever got out that they did.
If it ever got out that was what they were proposing to do to these poor African women. Yes, but there was still, this is an old time. They still believe.
Oh, I'm not going to give them any excuses. This is all rooted in old racism.
Oh yeah, no, this is totally racist. This is totally wrong and totally terrible. But there were some really hardcore people who were like, no,
they believed it then.
African Americans, or I'm sorry, African people they believed were a different species.
Species. Yeah.
Okay, now's a good time to go into our taxonomy.
Okay.
So what we're talking about here, taxonomically, so there's domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species.
Yes.
Let's start with kingdom, Animalia. Then it goes down to phylum, chordata. Order.
Which means we have a chordate or a notochord at some point.
Notochord, spinal cord. Clams and insects and all that are part of the kingdom Animalia, but they are not part of phylum Chordata because they don't have a spinal column inside.
Well, not a spinal column, a notochord.
A notochord. There's 4 different things that make that you in a chordata, but under chordata is Mammalia, which are the mammals, which are us warm-blooded things. Under that is order, primate.
Mm-hmm.
Under that is family, Hominida.
Yeah.
Then we go to genus, Homo. That is where humans and apes separate. Is that genus level. Now, species... I wouldn't say we separate.
We are one branch of ape.
Yes. We are
the Homo branch.
So we share a family, but genus level is where we split. Then you split species. So we are Homo sapien. Now, there are other Homo species.
I've heard Homo erectus or
Neanderthal is Homo neanderthalis or something like that. So different species can interbreed. They can interbreed fairly easily. Neanderthal, excuse me.
That's the word they used back then.
Neanderthals use that word. Are you fucking with me?
Yeah, that's a joke I stole from Hank Green. No,
Neanderthal language.
It's named after the Swedish caves that the bones are found in, but it is pronounced Neanderthal.
I'm gonna go into something a little controversial here, but it is science, and fuck y'all.
Yeah.
Homo sapien, we are the last left of the Homo group.
Genus.
The Homo genus. We are the last ones. We have either interbred and outbred all the other Homo species, or we have destroyed them.
Yeah, we outcompeted them, killed them, warred with them, whatever it was.
With them to the point where humans do, now that we have DNA.
In all reality, the more we study biology and how things kind of do that, it probably was a mix. Some things
it's probably a mix.
Some things we didn't. I will always go back to the fact that our pubic lice is very closely related to gorilla lice, which is different than the lice on our head, which is very funny to me.
Which is
potential implications.
But, so Homo erectus, which we are now Homo sapien, but Homo sapiens, as we are talking now, we do share DNA. They have found DNA in us that is the same as Neanderthal DNA. So we did interbreed.
So here's a fun little fact from college days. I dated a anthropology grad student at one point in time, and for a while she was obsessed with getting me into the program that was looking for Neanderthal DNA in the overall population.
Does this have to do with
I have
a prominent brow line?
I have a very large brow line.
But that has been proved inaccurate in that time. In the 20 years since
this is early 2000s.
In the 20 years since college. Shit. Fuck.
Shut up.
Don't shut up.
Shut up.
But the sloping brow line was like, one specimen, not all.
Right. So. And there's a whole bunch of features that she was just like, I want you tested. I want you in the program. I'm like, my toes are too long. My brow ridge
got tested. My family are direct male line descendants. Of course, I'm not, but my father and my brother and my nephews are direct male line descendants of Genghis Khan.
Really?
Yeah. It's fun.
He did have, actually, that's something that
I often dream of riding off into battle on a horse and trying to
there's some people in the populations that have proliferated very much, and I am now learning how
Genghis Khan
they're having on our overall population genetic amount. There was one African American man that was basically used as a sex slave because he was just a massive, large man, and they wanted more slaves like him. So he impregnated like somewhere between 300 and 800.
Oh wow,
women. And now they're looking at how much of the percentage of the population actually shares his DNA. And then there was a guy in Canada, a French-Canadian trader, who also is the sired like 400 or 500 kids.
Jesus.
And like, if you go into that section of Canada,
it
was something like 20. I'm bad with numbers, but
they're gonna need
40% of the population were related to him.
Like in Iceland and some island countries, their dating websites do have genetics connected to them to make sure you're not interbreeding with someone who's too closely related, because they want genetics to spread apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so
anyway,
we can talk about that another day.
But that's interspecies.
Yeah.
That's a dog and a wolf mating. That's two different types of cows mating.
Right.
That's interspecies. So, but what Ilya Ivanov wanted to do was intergenous species.
Yes.
Or intergenous hybrid. So that's a level higher, taxonomy.
And I'm going to just point out real quick, because we are talking about that, like he wanted that hybrid between those two genuses, but we also talked about like the African was considered a subspecies of human at the time. I would like to point out that modern biology doesn't even acknowledge that race exists, because we're so genetically closely related that we're not even like subspecies. We're nowhere near a subspecies level. So the whole idea was just bullshit.
Anyone listening to this, no.
Yeah, it was utter bullshit.
It was
complete bullshit. Was trying to get these two geniuses.
But they didn't have DNA at the time, so they didn't know. Chromosomally, we now know why. Let's take the one we all know. Mules are infertile.
Right.
Now, why are mules infertile? We'll give you a really...
The chromosomes don't match up.
Because the chromosomes don't match up. But different creatures, species, genus, we've got really what makes a different genus is you have different number of chromosomes. Yes. So I, as a human, have a pair... I have, 23 pairs of DNA.
23 pairs, so 46 chromosomes.
So I have 46 chromosomes.
Yes.
I get 23 from my mom. I get 23 from my dad. They match up. So generally speaking. So I have, for chromosome 1, I have A and B. One from dad, one from mom. All the way down, all 23 pairs. So now let's take the mule. Horses have 40, I have to double check, make sure 64 chromosomes.
Yes.
So they have 32 pairs of chromosomes. Donkeys have 62. So when you take...
They're missing basically one pair that the horse would have.
Exactly.
So they're missing the A or the B.
Yeah, they're missing a pair from the horse. So when your cells divide, they go... So you have... Horse has 64 chromosomes. When it divides normally, each ending resulting cell has 64. That's mitosis. Now, meiosis is when you make a gamete, you make a sperm or an ovary. or sorry, an egg.
Yeah.
Now, that's meiosis. So that's another splitting. And in that splitting, half the DNA goes to one and half the DNA goes to the other cells.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up with that odd number. So in a horse, they end up with, well, I guess it's not an odd number, but they end up with 32 in an egg. And since we are talking about a mule, which technically should be called a dorse, but whatever, hybrids go who the mom is, who the dad is. So the dad gets the first in the name, the mom gets the second.
Wait,
so
I thought that was reversed from that. Because a lion, a liger is a mother lion.
A lion? Are you sure?
A liger.
Because in a mule, the dad is the donkey, the horse is the mom.
Right, but a mule.
Because also there's a hinny, which is a horse donkey, the other way around.
No, it's the female, because a liger is a mother lion.
Sorry.
So mom starts first because she's more genetically important.
Okay. All right. So
because of
I guess a mule should be a hinny, a horse donkey. So it should be a hinny, a hinky. Yeah, but it's a mule. So mom is giving you 32 chromosomes. Dad, however, because he started with 62, he's only contributing 31 chromosomes. So the resulting mule has, instead of 64 or 62 chromosomes, they end up with 63. So they got an unmatched one there. They've got one chromosome from mom. They don't get from dad. So it's unmatched. So when a mule goes through meiosis, because they can...
It looks like you're right. Sorry. I did a quick little thing. Looks like you're right. Whitney. So a liger must be...
a stupidly named creature.
Yeah, liger... I thought it was the other way around, but a liger must be the father's the lion. Okay.
Anyway.
That's fine. I'm bad with 50-50s.
So I was right. It should be, it's not a hinny. It should be a dorse. So dad first, because I'm thinking, I'm a chick. So I'm like, yeah, of course they're going to make dad first. Nah.
Right.
They should make mom first, because you're right. Genetically, she's more significant. But dad goes first, okay? Hear ye, dad goes first. So... but anyway, so this, but irregardless, a mule can be a female or a male, and they do produce gametes, but because their egg and sperm have that, because the odd number during meiosis.
Basically, what they're trying to do is all the rest split, but that one chromosome tries to split and then it can't. So since it can't, it just basically becomes infertile for the most part. Every once in a while, you get weird things where that chromosome duplicates itself, in which case it fixes it.
Kind of.
Most of the time that doesn't happen.
Life
that
finds a way.
Yeah. Or sometimes it breaks itself and then becomes two and then creates a whole nother fiasco. Or sometimes it just deletes that extra chromosome if there's no necessary genetic material.
But the majority of dorse/mules are infertile. And a lot of intergenous is like that. Because there are those different numbers of chromosomes. Just think of it. The chromosomes don't match. If the chromosomes don't match, it's probably infertile.
Correct. And that's why his experiments were failed from the beginning, because he didn't know about chromosomes.
Well, he didn't know. Okay. So Ivanov did not know about chromosomes, but he knew that his experiments were working in artificial insemination between cows. And so he decided to up it. He decided to up his game. They were working with horses. They were working with cows. So he created successfully the first zebra-horse combination.
Zorse, yep.
The first Zorse. He created the first Zorse. Let me look at my notes. There were two others. He created a mouse-rat cross.
Yep.
And he created an antelope-cow cross. I don't know which species of antelope or cow, but he did get some see, he didn't know he was playing with intergenous at this point. The taxonomy was still fluid. I mean, it's still fluid nowadays. Nowadays, we're still finding out.
Now we're finding out where we were right and wrong, because as we talked about,
so he didn't know.
Divergent evolution.
He didn't know, but he was creating these great hybrids. All of a sudden, here you got a Zorse. And Nicholas II, Tsar of Russia, was like, damn, I got the coolest, funkiest horse there is. I think it was Powalski's horse or
Przewalski's.
The guy who was...
That's not a hybrid, though.
No, but it was his horse mixed with the zebra.
Oh, okay. So Przewalski, for those that don't know, you're never going to spell it right from what I say.
It begins with a P, for fuck's sake.
Przewalski's horse is a PRZ start.
PRZ. Once again, too many consonants without a vowel, you fucks.
So Przewalski's horse, which I can go on a whole diatribe on them right now.
We'll cover them.
Facility. And so they were thought to be the last wild, never domesticated horses for a long time. And they're in northern Eurasia kind of area. So that was the original belief. They've now done DNA testing, and that belief is now no longer existent. Yes, they are a wild horse. As it turns out, they are kind of like Genevieve, apparently. They are the offspring of, they're basically associated with Genghis Khan.
Go Khan, go Khan.
So basically what happened was he had domesticated horses. He brought them over, and then those went wild, and then eventually they went feral, and then which feral means that it was a domesticated animal that's gone into the wild. Kind of like, I hate the term wild Mustangs. They should be called feral Mustangs. There is no native horse in the U.S. And then I'm
gonna do that from now on. I'm gonna go. It was a feral Mustang.
What was
Makes it sound a lot more vicious.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why
they changed the name, because the people that are horse lovers don't like making it sound bad. But
I mean, it makes it sound like they've got canines. I don't know.
That's just because people associate bad things with feral things.
With a wild Mustang, I think dark and exotic and romantic. Feral, I'm like, motherfucker, no.
But the thing is, if it's a wild version, it was always wild, never been domesticated. But it turns out the Przewalski horse was domesticated and then basically reintroduced itself and then speciated into its own thing. Kind of like a dingo dog, actually. Dingo dogs were domestic dogs that made it to Australia and then went feral, which is why they're the only native placental other than bats and humans in Australia. Because they came with the humans.
They came with the humans.
Yep.
I'm sure there are rats that humans brought too.
Not before. No, not the native humans of Australia. They didn't bring them.
Not the native human. Yes.
No,
okay.
The dingo dog came with the native humans. Not. Yeah, it's everything spread at some point in time. Anyway.
Okay. So back to Ivanov and so he's doing all this stuff. He's made his Zorse. He's made all this fun stuff. And then the Russian Revolution happens. It's 1918. The Russian Revolution happens, and it's a shit show.
And also, he lost all his backers, which all your researchers, if you just lost all your backing,
they all just got taken out into a field and shot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't look up if he fled to Paris. He may not. The Soviets, or the Red Army, whichever they were called at that time. Forgive me, historians. They were kind to scientists because they were very much into the Marxist thoughts, and science overruled religion, everything like that. So they were decent to scientists. So there weren't a lot of like mass killings of scientists. So they were kind of like, oh, okay, you're a scientist. All right. We've killed all the people funding your research, but on your way, off you go. So he was still around, still kind of doing his farmyard stuff. And he wanted to push it further, though. And coincidentally, a couple things happened. So this gets blamed mostly on Stalin a lot, because that's the sensationalized Stalin did. What happened was the Pasteur Institute in Paris was still kind of like looking at his research from 1910. And now he's kind of a free agent, and he's talking to them again. And he's like, hey, let's try the human ape hybrid. Let's try this. And the Pasteur Institute has, they're in France, Paris. No, they own French Guiana at the time in Africa. So what they're doing there, though, because they're a biomedical research facility, is they are paying local people to go and hunt down great apes and kidnap them, essentially, and send them to places to be experimented on.
Right.
So what the Pasteur Institute says is, hey, you know what? We like your research. We like what you're doing. We go for it. We will give you access to all of our great apes, our facility in French Guiana. We will give you access to all of this, but we're not going to pay your passage. We're not going to pay for your food. You're on your own room and board, man.
Right.
But we'll give you access to all the great apes that we can. So France, though, has really kind of like, I don't know, somehow weaseled out of this whole story.
Right. And they're the ones that really were.
They're the ones who kind of pushed him. We're like, hey, you want to do this? We want to see what you can do. You've revolutionized artificial insemination, all that stuff. Let's give these hybrids, and he was the leading hybrid scientist at the time. So since he's Russian and Stalin is now in charge, it's now 1924. Stalin is much more, the whole Marxist communist thing is more pushing science, anti-religion. So all of these anti-Darwin religious detractors are kind of gone.
Right.
So he's like, what the hell? So Stalin says, yeah, you know what? I'll give you some money. Go see what you can do. And it didn't have to do with making super soldiers. I'm sure maybe that was in somebody's fantasy.
Yeah. And
but
I think the way it was presented in some of the things, which they presented no evidence, I will say that.
Yes.
Was that he basically did that to promote that idea that it could potentially, basically, from what I understand, he was just spewing stuff out because he wanted his research funded. So he was just going at all the angles.
You know what? We all do. It's called selling yourself.
Yeah.
So he's selling himself.
He did, maybe he didn't. We can't prove one way or the
exactly. Other. Since there, a lot of time has passed, 100 years have passed. Actually, wow.
Yeah.
It's 100 years old.
100 years ago.
He was Ivanov was a great researcher and stuff, but he's kind of considered part of the dark past of Soviet Russia. So people are a little bit like, they don't really want to talk about him and stuff.
Right.
Which is sad because, for his time, he was doing cutting edge research and he was doing it kind of properly. Now, after 1924, when Stalin gives him some money, he's no longer really. He was skirting ethics before.
He was skirting ethics before then.
Yeah, he was raping some horses and things, but now.
Well, and in his propositions, he was going to trick African women into the insemination process, not telling them what he was actually doing.
Just saying, "Oh, I'm a medical doctor, and I'll give you a medical check."
Yeah,
that was kind of what he was proposing, but. Okay, so the Pasteur Institute and the French government were not okay with that part. They were not on board in 1924. So let's say, okay, so fast forward, we gone 2 years. He's got his funding. He's got his ship. He and his son go to French Guiana. They go there. And unfortunately for everything involved, they are presented with a very, very dismal scene. It is not it's like a shack was some juvenile chimpanzees that were hunted, stolen from their parents, and locked in cages. They're starved. They're dying. Over half of the great apes that were part of this program by the Pasteur Institute, died. Yep. Over half. It was a brutal process. So when he got there, he was presented with like some juvenile chimpanzees and a bunch of locals who really were not told what he was doing. Yes. They were told
they were volunteers.
Yeah, they were volunteers. So they didn't really know what he was doing. So he and his son, and they never go into. So they find 3 female chimpanzees that are approximately okay, that this might work on, that they try to inseminate with human sperm. Right. They never say where they got the sperm from. That's couldn't find that anywhere, but human sperm.
Yeah.
So they take. It was
my understanding that the human volunteers gave the sperm.
Yeah, some human volunteers gave the sperm, but yeah, okay.
Well, actually, no. All the experiments that I saw were the apes were the sperm donors. The humans were female volunteers.
This is before that, though. This is he's experimenting. He's trying his first. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One could be mom. And a human could be the mother, or a human could be the father. So he starts.
Right.
He starts with
off, the ape mother.
Yeah, ape mother, human father. That's where he starts because, he's. I guess there's some ethics still going on here where he's like, that's less invasive for the human. I guess. So, you know,
this
so
man wasn't ethical. Everything I read.
Not really. I am, but so he decides he's going to artificially inseminate these apes, and his only assistant is his son. They're working on the dirt floor of some shack, trying to hide what they're doing. Because
which adds to the fact that he was, everything I saw was like,
this wasn't,
even for back then, was giant red flags. And they had, because they still had some ethics rules, and he was violating those even.
So the French government, while the Russian government wasn't very religious and kind of almost anti-religious at this point, the French government was still kind of like, dude, we still humans are still sacred, blah 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 blah. So unfortunately, these highly stressed, emaciated, excuse me. Yeah, that's a whole different one. Yeah, they wish they would have been emancipated.
One meant they were freed.
No, female chimpanzees, none of them produce children.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, well, okay, we've tried the human mother ape. Let's try it the other way around. So at this point, he did look for he didn't look for volunteers. I'm not going to say that. He petitioned the French government, whose land he was on, and he was upfront about it with them at least, and it said, "Hey, I want to trick some native women, some native African women, into giving them physicals and try and inseminate them with chimpanzee sperm." And the French governor, to his credit, said, no.
Yes.
No, don't do that. So I think he was only in French Guiana for a few months, actually, because everything was just
it's like nobody wanted to do what the fuck he wanted to do. And then he gets arrested, I believe.
Yeah, well, so not in French Guiana. He goes home. No. He goes back to Russia. After failure.
Yeah.
And no one's saying yes. So he goes back to Russia and he's like, hey, I'm going to ask Russian women. I'm going to ask for Russian women. I'm going to tell them what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for volunteers. And believe it or fucking not, he got some chick. Some woman, I mean, I think he was offering to pay them.
Who was like, it's all about money.
He's like, yeah.
And also, every report that I saw on this, he did not inform the volunteers. Consent cannot be given without information. He never had consent.
I think he told a couple of the Russian women. He didn't? Okay.
No. He didn't tell. Once again, it's back. He told his backers. The volunteers were not told what they were
getting into. I'm sorry. I was under the impression the female Russians were saying, okay. So, but there were some volunteers who were like, yeah, sure. And I think, so they probably thought they were just signing up for artificial insemination.
No, maybe.
Or very invasive gynecological
physicals, and then they were inserting it during the physical.
Okay. So, it never happened though.
Nope.
It never happened.
It was delayed because his last orangutan died.
Yes, which, if we go into orangutans are not in the right genus. They are not they're not in the right family. Orangutans are primates, yes, but they are not in the family Hominidae. Did I pronounce it right? Hominidae. They're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baboons, loris, all those.
They are in the family Hominidae.
They are? Orangutans are?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I thought they weren't. I'm sorry.
No, they're sometimes considered closer to us than chimps.
Oh, I apologize. I had my taxonomy knowledge was wrong.
No, I was like, wait a minute. They're in the same group as chimps and
so he was trying with orangutan.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought he was okay. Anyway, I'm wrong. Yeah. But his last orangutan that he managed to get out of the French Pasteur Institute died, probably from mishandling, stress, starvation, all sorts of horrible, poor things. The last male orangutan he could jerk off died.
Yes.
And thus he pretty much dissolves into legend at this point. He made some enemies in the Russian government. I can't even remember what crime. They eventually charged him with a crime, not a scientific crime, I don't believe. It was something. And they sent him into exile for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And, Russian prison and exile. Whoopsie. A lot of people die. He didn't go to Siberia. I think he went to that
even happens today, didn't
he went into Kazakhstan? I can't remember. They sent him somewhere more Middle Eastern, more southern. They didn't send him to Siberia.
It was Alma-Ata.
Alma-Ata. Thank you.
Yeah.
They
forced him to work at a veterinary zoological institute until he died.
No surprise. But he died shortly after that. So thus, poor Ivanov, who'd been this groundbreaking scientist, now goes into legend. Where he goes into legend as almost a Mangala type character.
Yeah, because today they even do more sci-fi about him. Like
there's an opera. There's an orangutan opera.
Almost. They started. It's not completed. It was just going to be a prologue satire of the whole thing. It was going to be.
I want to see it.
It never got finished. It never even got finished written, but it was started. And then
So unfortunately, the true story, that's pretty much the true story. It's a lot less spectacular and it involves a lot less. Everybody's like, oh, yes.
Wasn't like, I'm making an army. He was just like, see what you do.
Well, you get these things where it's like they're picking the cream of the crop Russian soldier, the whole Ivan Drago. For those who don't know, that's a character from Rocky.
Oh, I found out what he got arrested for.
Oh, what did he get arrested for?
Counter-evolutionary activity.
Oh, well, so did everybody.
Counter-revolutionary activity.
Yeah, whatever.
So basically,
he probably went into a bar and said, "I'd get better funding from Tsar Nicholas II," and they're like, "Whoop!"
Basically, they just said, "Hey, you're not." Whatever that activity was,
you're counter-revolutionary. So a lot of purging, but I mean, if it worked,
basically, it's not as big a deal. No actual ape hybrids were ever made.
No. But like I said, the romanticized science fiction version is you've got these giant Russian men having sex with chimpanzees, and I'm sure there's a porno somewhere of a badly shaved. Never mind. Right. I'm sorry, I went down that rabbit hole.
One of the issues with this whole thing is like the religious groups took his failure because he did impregnate female animals with human sperm. So they took that as proof that evolution can't exist because of humanity's
superiority. Let's call it what they call it.
And basically, God wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah, but God would never let that kind of
chromosomes. And chimps and humans have different chromosomes.
We do.
I don't know the count.
I do know the count.
There it is. Get it.
Chimpanzees have 48. Or 48 chromosomes.
One pair off again.
Humans have 46.
So
to
we're
which
close.
You think, that's as far off as a horse and a donkey.
Which also remember, a lot of these hybrids only work one way. Some of them work both ways, and some of them will work both ways and still come up with something different. So
we're gonna go off on a tangent now. That kind of ends. Ivanov.
I will admit, I didn't expect us to go that deep into his history.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But now we can go off into a couple of the other intergenous hybrids.
Right. So the thing is, as we said, the chromosome count, the chromosome numbers have to matter. If you can't split the chromosome during meiosis, it stops the whole process.
You can't have fertile young.
You can't have fertile. And also, the problem is sometimes that chromosome that's missing, some genes need both halves to work together. The A and B part, they kind of bounce off of each other.
It's not one or the other. It's
and there's a lot, and there's a lot in the sex chromosomes that maybe the sex chromosome itself isn't important, but it's something in its proteins communicate with another chromosome, and maybe that's the one that's missing, and then it fucks everything up. So that's why a lot of times these hybrids won't even make it to the point where they get made, but then they don't even make it to birth because they
or they last like a couple days and die.
And they die early. Most of them just don't even make anything because it can't even get the first cell division point.
So, and we are not talking about genetic chimeras. That is when there's a merging of the DNA. That's different. That's a merging of the embryos in utero.
And it's not a genetic chimera. A scientific chimera is where you take cells from one animal and pop it into the embryo as it's developing. So that's where you get the mouth with an ear experiment. The thing in those experiments wasn't that they were trying to make a human ear on a mouse. What they actually were doing was they were putting this other cell in there to see what that section of the blastosphere when it's just a circle, because literally you can tell what it is, what it will become, or where that is, because they put that human cell there. So they're like, when we put it in that spot, that's where it showed up. So that's the back of the animal.
And this is still going on today. Those kind of experiments. In 2003, Chinese scientists fused a human cell into a rabbit embryo. Very, very early stage embryo. They've done that. And that one, actually, they got the cells to divide. That's why that one was considered successful. No, there is not a rabbit human jumping around.
Well, the thing is,
it's just getting the cells not to reject.
Well, not even that necessarily, because a lot of times we can get that. We've been doing that for usually what they're doing is mapping the blastosphere. Like they're trying to figure out what section of that big circle near the
blastosphere, for those who haven't listened to previous episodes, is a very, very beginning embryo. It's just like a ball of cells.
Divot of what your butthole or mouth, depending on which branch you are in the Animalia thing, kind of comes.
Humans are buttholes.
Just trying to map
Welcome
what
to
that is, and it generally matches for most of the grouping. So for so if they put something there, then they know. Sometimes they use dyes, and they just dye the cell, so then it kind of like when it splits, the dye is in all those.
But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about
hybridizations where there's actually breeding going on.
Yes,
or sometimes a genetic splicing, because there is also the hybrid of the spider silk goats now.
The spider silk goats we're going to do a whole episode on those guys.
We'll talk briefly about them. So we're not going to go too in deep, but technically they could be considered hybrids because they took spider DNA, put it into these goats, and now their milk creates a silk. So now we can make spider silk in mass because we put that into that goat, and we can now take that silk.
When you milk the goat, you get milk from the goat, and you get spider silk.
Which spider silk is important because it's way stronger than caterpillar silk, so it can be used in much better things.
And that is being produced on a fairly, I want to say mass produced. It's a decent level though. There's a lot of spider goats.
One thing I want to correct, because also going through this and researching, there's a whole lot of crappy misinformation out there about what hybrids are, and they use the word species, and this will create. Yes, sometimes in nature, hybrids will create a species. We talked about one when we were talking about that one. I think it was a guppy. Was it a guppy? No, it was a molly fish, I believe. Can't remember. It was a fish.
Yes.
And basically, sometimes it does happen because you do this a few thousand million billion times, and eventually you get a setup that works, and then you create the hybrid. Does it happen?
Humans have done a lot of hybrids in our history.
We're talking fauna. Plants are weird with their DNA.
Plants are that's a totally different show.
Totally different thing. My plant people.
But we've inadvertently done this a lot to a lot of animals. Usually we breed them, but we didn't quite know what we were doing.
Yeah.
We didn't know we were creating a hybrid.
The thing is, it's usually used for sensationalism. That is why they do it, because a lot of times, especially modern times, nowadays, sometimes you've had accidents and it happened. Sometimes they literally had a purpose, like the mule. They wanted something that was stronger and more docile than a donkey, but would.
And then sometimes in zoological settings, a lot of hybrids were accidental. There's a whole thing about orangutans. There were some zookeepers that didn't know they were different types of orangutans.
Oh yeah, back in the day. Well, that's where that subspecies line comes, and also giraffes. Giraffes. That's a big problem with giraffes.
Yeah, they're like, hey, large and spotted. Breed the two.
And then when we started researching more in the wild, we realized, oh, god damn it, these motherfuckers are actually different. So that's accidental. The problem is in the zoological field, there is a truth that there was a bunch of purposeful hybridization. The most famous one is the liger. And to this day, it's done. I do not respect any zoological institution that promotes hybridization because they're doing it for sensationalism and not for the protection of the species, because a hybrid is not a species. You're wasting time to make a infertile, potentially inhumane creature because the liger, for example, is famous because
horribly inhumane.
Because there's what is it? Tyon and a liger. The Tyon is the tiger father.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that I realize I've been mixing it up in my head for years, the tiger is the lion father, and those generally are mostly okay. They come out fine.
Okay.
But the compared to the liger's more popular though because there's a pituitary gland issue because the chromosomes don't match up and there's something that doesn't turn off, so they suffer from gigantism.
The female lion has the chromosome for the pituitary gland being shut off.
Right. Well, technically they both have it, but the thing is it doesn't match up between the lion and the tiger.
Doesn't match up. So all ligers have gigantism.
Right.
Which is a continuation of growth. Like they continue to grow throughout their whole lives.
Humans that are like 7, 8, 10 feet tall, something like that.
Horrible stresses on the heart, the organs. It's miserable. It's a miserable existence because
and then they're
constantly growing and constantly in pain.
Right. And they usually die at about half the life expectancy or less.
But we want to see, we're humans. We want to see that giant fucking cat.
So,
that thing that's bigger than anything we've seen. We want to see it. We don't care that the poor creature is miserable.
Completely inhumane. Which is so basically if you see any facility doing it, fuck them. Fuck what they're doing. Usually they're being assholes. Don't promote that shit. And then they make it out like, oh, it happened naturally. No. What happens is they purposely put two animals together and eventually they get horny enough and they're like, well, you kind of look like the right thing.
And usually it does end up with the tiger being the father because tigers are typically they're a little bigger and they tend to be more dominant. But it does happen the other way around too. So I guess it depends on species of tiger species. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But there are actually, I'm going to debate with you on this. There are some good hybrids. There are two hybrids I came across that I consider beneficial. They domestic
hybrids?
They are domestic hybrids.
That's different. That's serving a purpose like the mule, things of that nature. But I'm talking about these zoological ones that are just taking endangered species and just trying to sensationalize.
Forgive me, I hate to do this. I hate to say this word, but it's a freak show.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly
they're doing.
What it
is a freak show.
And another one before we go into the good ones. Watch out for things like wolfins.
Oh God, I hate the wolfin. The poor wolfin.
Which is a whale dolphin mix. Which technically it's related. It's two whales that are a whale that's related. It's the false orca, which is a toothed whale. Which dolphins are toothed whales, so they are closely related. But they. I think there's one in the wild that just kind of happens.
Occasionally, these species come into contact.
And dolphins will just fuck anything that looks right.
Oh,
dolphins are horny motherfuckers.
So you hear about a dolphin tried to rape someone at SeaWorld? That's true.
Yeah.
Dolphins will try to rape people.
I don't know about SeaWorld, but in the wild.
Maybe not SeaWorld, whatever. But you hear about that? A lot of these animal myths you hear about are false. That one's not.
They will, yeah. Well, I'm not. They don't go after people. They
usually don't, but they have.
That's the way that researchers generally identify a female from a distance from a male is how many scars does she have on her body because the males go in groups and gang rape the females. At least with bottlenose dolphins.
We'll do there was a whole dolphin human experiment too. We'll do some other time. That's American.
Yeah, wolfins are one example. Usually we do this quite a bit. I'm going to talk about two eventually. I got two more that I want to cover before we finish the thing, but I'd like to go into what you're talking about with the good ones.
Let's do. There's another wild one that we should cover. The growler. Okay. We should cover the growler.
One of the ones that I was going to. The growler.
Okay. Growler. Excuse me. That's a wild one.
It comes from polar bear,
grizzly bear, and a polar bear.
This one is happening though because of man. Though it is because of man, but it is happening in the wild. How is man involved in the wild? Because a roller bear is a
grizzly and a polar bear. So these species usually don't interact because a polar bear is usually up north where their food is. Yes. And grizzly bears are usually in more temperate climates where their food is. But now that it's not as cold, so there isn't as much food up there for the polar bears, what are they doing? They're coming down south into grizzly.
they're moving up. And basically.
The species, each one, because of the climate change, now they're overlapping their territory.
Because the polar bear honestly can't go further north, but the grizzly is moving further north because of habitat shifts, and the polar bears are losing territory. So they're honestly, what happens also is
they're breeding a lot.
The polar bears, because they lose, because they breed and then they have less area to be, the young males and females will look for territories further south. Happens a lot when there's a bad,
and as we reviewed
and then they usually die of starvation.
Yeah, if you have not listened to our polar bear episode, it is all about polar bears. I'm sorry, that was a duh.
So the polar bear,
it's also about why polar bears have to have a heavy blubber diet. The polar bear cannot just move south and start eating elk. They physiologically can't. They will starve to death.
Well,
even if there's abundance. But listen to the polar bear episode.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that they can't survive, but usually the problem is
it's pretty hard.
They can eat and still survive, but usually they overheat or they
need the blubber.
Is they also can't hide. They stand out. That's the problem. So
now, our growlers
and they're strict carnivores compared to their other bears. What was that?
Grizzly bears are omnivores. Are growlers infertile? I did not.
I'm not sure on that one. I couldn't find one way or the other.
So if they weren't, they could pseudo-naturally create their own species. That's kind of
potentially, that is a potential thing. But the problem
what was the other one?
Real reason that it's happening at all is
humans.
Which also, and if they are infertile, then this is how a lot of species will go extinct, is through interbreeding, those types of situations. And then one species is gone, and then this new one might exist. Or if they are infertile, they're wasting a lot of territory, resource, and food.
Yes.
And then that kills the whole process of both the grizzly and the polar bear for the future.
It's destroying the whole species.
There's those guys.
What was the other wild one you wanted to talk about?
Oh, the other one's not a wild one. It's a man-made one, but it's a problem. Okay.
All right, well, let's go into the man-made ones then, because there are some man-made hybrids that are
start with the good ones, and I'm going to bring in the bad.
So I'm gonna go with there's two good ones that I read about. One is the Kamala. It is a camel llama hybrid.
Yes.
Now, number one, these species would never meet in the natural world,
and also
totally different continents.
They wouldn't meet, and also there's something I mentioned before. Why speciate? One of the things is that chromosomal, genetically, they don't mix, they don't match. And then another reason, of course, is distance and time. One's nocturnal, one's diurnal. They never meet, or they live farther away. And then there's mechanical. It just doesn't fit.
It doesn't
Imagine a camel that's like 10 times the size of a llama or more.
Either way, whoever the mom and the dad is, either way, it ain't gonna work.
Imagine
So
I will always remember back in the day when my 12th grade advanced biology teacher was explaining mechanical, and he's like, so sometimes things have genetic drift. They're like dogs, the Chihuahua and the Great Dane, they never will mate, but the Chihuahua might mate with something that's a little bit bigger, and then those genes flow back and forth. And then he's like, and then he drew the Great Dane and drew this giant dick, and then drew this little tiny hole on the back of the Chihuahua. So he's like, it doesn't fit. And then he looked at it and he said, well, maybe. And then he drew a ladder up to the Great Dane, erased the dick, put a little hole on the back of the Dane, and then put a little tiny penis on the. I was like, oh, God damn it.
There hasn't been enough dick talk for artificial insemination. We haven't had enough dick talk. We got really serious for a while. Our conservationism kicked in. But now back to the dicks.
So your camel llama thing, there is a purpose for it. And one is they are 6 times bigger than a llama.
Yes.
But they have the fur of a llama.
They do. They've got a beautiful, soft undercoat.
Which means these large things make a huge amount of I guess alpaca or llama fleece. Llama,
yeah, I can't
whatever.
Remember. Yeah,
Apparently, they're supposedly they're more efficient as far as getting that.
Yeah, so that's beneficial for human. Well, They do have the attitude of a camel. I've read though. They're not as docile as.
Usually, you want them more. Oh, that's right. I wanted to. There was one other one that is bad too, but we can get back to that.
So usually you're trying for a more docile one. Yep. Like the beefalo was another one that was something
this is the one
like
I was thinking of.
Okay, the beefalo is bad. That's the interbreeding of a buffalo and a domesticated cow,
which
would produce a lot more meat. But humans have been
are more docile than a buffalo.
Slightly more docile.
It's not so much that they produce more meat; it's the quality of it.
Okay.
Because we've been marbling and breeding for like fatty meat for so long with cattle, they are more lean and more muscular, tougher meat.
The buffalo. The beefalo are leaner meat, and now everybody's more health conscious, and we want the leaner buffalo type.
Well, that's not why the beefalo exists, though. But
the beefalo they've been trying to make the beefalo exist before artificial insemination.
Oh,
they've been trying since the 1700s. They've been like
beefalo existed for 300 to 400 years.
Okay. They've been throwing horny buffalo in with cows, and the poor cow's probably going, mother.
Remember, wild cattle going feral. True. Might mate with it's like why you get a wolf dog hybrid. They're close enough that they can interbreed and they produce offspring.
Wolf dog hybrid, bad one. Don't do it, assholes.
Well, I can go into that here in a second too.
We'll do that one. That'll be
basically here's the problem with the beefalo. It's okay in a domestic sense. Okay, you're making these buffalo cow hybrids. The thing is, more than likely, you have never seen an actual true buffalo. If you left and you saw a buffalo, you saw a beefalo. The reason is we've made the buffalo almost extinct. There's literally only 2 populations that have no cow genetics in them.
Actually, then we should call them their proper name then. They're bison.
The bison, yes.
American buffalo
are not buffalo. They are
not buffalo. They are bison.
Which, there is a European bison, which is much smaller than ours. Buffalo, like water buffalo, it looks completely different.
Buffalo, we use a ton. We use buffalo too much. Like buzzard, vultures, American vultures are not buzzards, but we use the word anyway.
Well, buzzard is a generic term that just means
Yeah, no, it's a European one. We went through that with the turkey vultures.
I know. Well, we talked about it, but I also said it was a generic word, which also includes falcons and.
Okay, well, they're not here to listen to us fight, but yes. So the bison. If you've seen a bison,
so the bison you have not.
They're big.
One of the things I had in the zoo world, I did have a talk with somebody. I believe the Wichita Zoo has a pure line of American bison, and I was actually talking with I believe it was the mammal curator at the time, and it was one of his proudest accomplishments because to get a pure actual bison is so difficult because all of them have been tainted.
One the feral cows, and 2 humans killed a lot of
humans. Killed most of them, and then what we did save, we purposely bred to create beefalo, and then those also got out, and so basically it's all tainted. A true bison, as it was, or whatever,
very, very
hard you want to look at that, is hard to find. You have to basically make deals with one of the few populations that are in the quote unquote wild, which I can get into an argument about whether or not anything's in the wild anymore.
Yeah, but the bison themselves, I mean, the pure bisons are, I from what I've researched, are a lot bigger and a lot meaner than we think of them.
Yeah, and they are, and they're very. And
I think of the regular the bison that you see, non-pure bison are saturated bison, that are like the local part, or like Yellowstone stuff. I think of those as really big and really mean.
Those are the Yellowstone bison are one of the few populations.
Oh, they are. Okay. Because those are the ones that somebody's like, I'm going to go touch one, and gets their ass kicked.
It's the Yellowstone ones, and one, I believe the other one's owned by a tribal nation. You'll have to look it up. There might be a third or fourth, but I know of 2 for sure that are true. Yeah. And then anything outside of that would be a zoological one, like an offshoot. And usually you can trace that zoological one to one of those 2 populations, and they take a lot of dealing and whining and dealing and whatever
to get some of the spunk.
Yeah, well, to get the legalities of it, and then sometimes like any offspring are still technically owned by like Yellowstone or whatever. It's a complicated process in the zoo world. But anyway,
so that's a bad one. Don't.
Beefalo. I'm putting that one as mixed.
I'll put it
it's
as
also
neutral.
It's also the excuse of why one of the reasons why we got rid of the buffalo. We bred them out of existence.
Yeah.
But
so back to the last good one. This one was a new one for me doing research on this episode. I had not heard of this one, the Zoe.
Okay, the Zoe, yeah.
It is a yak domesticated cow hybrid. And they are docile. They're very big. They're very strong. And the meat is supposedly quite good. It tastes like you would expect a mix between a yak and a cow. They're heavy in Mongolia at the moment. I think this episode we've mentioned Mongolia more than we have
any others. Yeah,
not just any other, collectively all the others. Mongolia, by the way, anyone who's from Mongolia, Mongolian people out there, by the way, you're badass. I have a soft spot for Mongolia. That longest written history is just phenomenal. Anyway, but yeah. So I don't know much about them. I do know what I did read is the females are fertile, the males are infertile, which I thought was kind of interesting. So this is going to be one of those sex chromosome mismatching.
Kind of like that fish that we talked about in another episode. Like the females they actually could only interbreed, not with each other, but with one of the two species.
That's right.
And only the females could. The males could not, if I recall.
Exactly. So a Zoe has to, I think, see, and that's where this one messes me up because it's ZOE. So I don't know who the dad is.
Actually, no, it's not ZOE.
No, what is it?
DZO.
DZO? Well,
yeah.
Fucking hell. Let us be a call out to everyone. Be very, very careful where you research on the internet. Get your primary sources down. Otherwise, you sound like a total dumbass on a podcast. But so those guys are working out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean,
but then again, still that DZO. Who's the dad? I don't know.
That's why. So
neither one of the. It's
no the DZO.
It's probably a native language thing because something should be a.
Okay, so the female is known as a Dezomo or a Zom.
Is that a yak?
The Zoe technically refers to the male hybrid.
Okay.
So literally they just name them differently based on what. So this is also why that hybrid naming system is bullshit. Nobody actually fucking follows it. Right. So the Zoe is just the male hybrid.
Okay.
Doesn't matter about the male or which one's the mom or the dad. And then the female is the Zomo or Zom. So
okay, so the Zoms can mate the females with probably mate. I don't know if they can mate only with a yak or only with a cow, bull at that point. But
who knows that? And maybe So we didn't go that deep into all this because there's so many hybrids out there.
There's so many hybrids. But so here's some good ones. There's some good ones. There's some bad ones, and there's some really bad ones, like the Ligars.
Like the ones that we
knock that shit off, motherfuckers.
They tried to make for pollination.
Oh, yes. And then I forgot about that one. So humans also, this
everybody's
is not genetic
heard of killer bees, which basically is an African type of species of bee hybridized with a
honeybee.
A honeybee, and basically
which by the way, I was
basically like a honeybee for the most part. A little bit bigger maybe.
Honey or killer bee is no longer what you're supposed to call them. You're supposed to call them an Africanized bee.
Because of the African.
Because they're African hybrid. I'm sorry. I'm always.
But so the killer bees that basically they were made in research and then they escaped.
Yeah. And we made them in research to make more honey because the African bees made a whole lot more honey than the domesticated docile honeybee.
Yep. And then it got the attitude of the problem was it didn't get the full size of the Africanized bee or the African species, but it did get the attitude of them, which they are swarmers. And in fact, actually, that's one way to protect the crop is to put those in some areas where elephants are, you put those beehives at the corners of your crop. And the sting is so bad that elephants don't even want to fuck with
like,
it.
Fuck this, fuck this, fuck this.
Exactly. So what they do, it's a human method to protect the crops, which is basically you take all these beehives and you put some wire in between so that if the elephant hits the wire, the bees get angry.
Hey, you know what?
Elephant doesn't fuck with your crops again.
I'm all for feeding elephants everything and anything, but if you have to protect your crops, you got to do it.
Yeah,
I'm pro this method. I'm pro the mean bee method.
The facilities that I've worked at have funded the research and the propagation of this method because it also creates pollinators. It does.
It also need pollinators.
Native pollination in the area, and then also keeps the elephants safe because there has to be a balance between the human population and them. And if humans are dying of starvation because the elephants are eating all the crops, you're not going to get anybody on the side of the elephants in that area.
Yeah, you need a balance there, and
exactly.
And humans are usually pushing
that bee sting is real bad, but killer bees don't have any more toxicity, to my understanding, but they just have the voracity where they swarm so much, so you get stung so many times that even if you're not allergic, you have a potential to go into
anaphylactic shock.
And that's the word. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the killer bees is definitely one of the hybrids. I'm not I get so annoyed when I was in the zoo. I get so annoyed because everybody is so obsessed with these mysticized ideas of what a hybrid is. This subject is very triggering for me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was the one who recommended this episode.
Oh no, it's fine. It's something that people need to realize.
There's a lot.
Hybrids should not be glorified. No. Should they be the domestic ones? I don't think should be demonized because usually they still create something and it's cared for and whatnot. Unless it's done for the freak show ones need to fucking stop. And if you see a zoological institution, then it's not a respectable place in my mind. If they are purposely
propagating and breeding for hybrids,
because those things don't accidentally happen. Oopsies!
We let a lion and a tiger.
They have full control of that animal's life. They have full control of all of that. Mm-hmm. They can make or not make it happen. So don't let anybody fool you.
Like the Zorse, useless.
Yes.
You know, it was cool. It was some bragging points for Nicholas II.
Yeah.
And it was, however, actually, I'm going to take that back. There was a purpose for it. In Ivanov, it was a physical, real thing you could see, you could touch that proved his artificial insemination worked.
Yep.
So the one was a good idea. Right. It showed that his techniques were good. And artificial insemination, by the way, guys, has saved so many hardships on domesticated livestock. It's actually a fantastic process. A lot of people sit there, oh, you're raping a cow. Dude, if I were a cow, I would rather artificial insemination than you let a bull near me. Horses, all these things.
And the cows don't give a fuck. If you've ever seen the process, they're just like, nom, 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 I'm eating this thing. And then,
what have you? I mean, it's not like they're going for girth here. Okay. Yeah. They're not trying
and
to
the whole
make
sperm collection process is also entertaining because they just basically present the cow to them with a fake mount. And then the bull just hits that.
Okay.
And this also
it's a blow-up doll for the bull. All right.
Talking about all this artificial insemination always makes me think of one of my favorite terms, which is named after a U.S. president in reproductive biology.
Oh, tell me. I want to hear it.
Have you ever heard of the Coolidge effect?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
The Coolidge effect, because President Coolidge, whether or not it really happened or if it's just a joke that's been said forever, it's attributed to him. So that refractory period about getting it up, it basically started with Coolidge, and supposedly back in the day, him and his wife went on a tour of some, I think it was a rooster or some type of domestic livestock situation. And they're like, oh, well, we can get this one to mate X number of times per day. And supposedly they weren't together. So his wife apparently said, oh, tell President Coolidge about that. And he's how much the rooster could get it up in a day. And then his reply was, well, if you presented me with that many hens,
oh shit.
Because basically the Coolidge effect is every time a male is presented, a normal refractory period would actually be a long time. They have sex.
But if you present him with a new mate,
with a new female, you can drop the refractory period from minutes to hours down to literally seconds, and they can get up again. So the Coolidge effect is the ability to get an animal hard again and ready to breed, a male animal hard again and ready to breed by presenting a new female.
Yeah, so, faster than normal. Okay.
So what they do with the bull is they present a female and have the fake mount, and it just goes to town on the fake mount, and then they present another female, and then it goes to town on the fake mount, and they're able to get a ton of ejaculate.
So they're allowed to. They kind of scent them differently.
Yeah, they don't have to scent. No, there's no scent involved. It's just they're flowing in, and maybe there's a scent involved. But the thing is, a different female gets the hard on, which is
all right. The Coolidge effect.
That's the Coolidge effect. All right, let's. Oh, that's a fun one.
Well done. Some people are known as Honest Abe and Tricky Dicky and stuff. And Coolidge effect. Well done, sir.
Yeah, well done. That's a thing to be in the history books for.
Hey, at least you remembered. Come on, that's a bit of immortality right there. Notice actually that could be the first that could be known as a male clap back at a wife's sass.
Yeah. There you go. The way the joke or the story goes, that's definitely what it was.
There you go. So that is our artificial insemination, Ilya Ivanov.
Yeah, so basically what it comes down to,
hybrid.
There were no and are no human hybrids out on the planet. Most likely it won't work because of whatever chromosomal and DNA, which they're less than 1% away from us. So that's all it takes to make you not able to breed with another species.
Yeah, very, very small amount.
So,
granted, we haven't put a ton in there because, ethical reasons.
Right.
And we probably shouldn't, but no, there has not been any true scientific documented humanzees.
Now, could there be some unethical thing that we find out about in 50 years from now?
Oh, sure.
Maybe. Probably. In which case we go, just like Ivan, like this guy, we're like, yeah, you're an unethical motherfucker.
Yeah, like, you were doing some weird stuff. Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't do that.
And fortunately, there were some other scientists and some other groups of people who were like, no, you're going to stop doing that. Which is good. There should always be scientists enjoy debate because there should be debate. There should be another point of view.
But no, that experience also did not prove that anything like holy about or didn't disprove that
it was possible.
Like that. It didn't. Honestly, what it did is point to chromosomal theory before chromosomes were discovered.
It did do that. It also pointed to the need for a lot of research and one statistical outlier, even if he had been able to create one, which he didn't, but if there is one statistical outlier, does not prove a theory.
Right.
It can prove a hole in a theory, but it can, like an inaccuracy, it can prove a theory incorrect, but it cannot one
thing doesn't get the theory gone because scientific theories, people need to think of it more like a big major rule because everyone thinks theory means, theory. It's not proven. No, if it's a scientific theory, it is proven over and over again. And if it's a law, it's a subset of that theory.
Yeah.
Basically.
So
like gravitational theory. Gravity is just
go ahead. Try and prove that. Try and disprove that. Have fun.
Disprove it. Exactly.
So a lot of fun. Sorry to kind of tarnish the glamour of the Russian
for anybody
human ape super soldier. Didn't happen. Wasn't. I'm sure in somebody's mind somewhere it was a glorified hope, but
yes.
Nope. Sorry, guys.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Just a crazy guy who also proved why we need ethics and ethical boards in science.
Yes, very much so, and why there are ethic review committees, and that usually is part of a funding process. If you want funding for your research, you're probably going to have to go review with an ethics board, which is we totally promote and think that's a great idea. So then next week we will return to our regularly scheduled animals. I believe it is Whitney's choice.
All right, I got to make decisions.
You have to make decisions about cool things, and then I have to do a lot of research because it's usually he'll choose something like the green sea slug that
that's on my list.
That it shares DNA with plant matter, not just
it does not. Which was why I did not talk about it today. That was a falsehood on YouTube. Which maybe that's it. We'll talk about that next week. We'll do the green sea slugs.
Well,
other sea slugs.
Maybe we'll do. Well, let's
you're kind of right, but we'll talk about it next week.
You know what? Talk about that next week. So we keep counters of human interactions with Whitney's interactions with horny animals.
Green sea slug, kleptoplasty.
God, you use the same notes program as me. But so we're gonna have to start keeping another counter, but it'll be in the hundreds by now. You know, Whitney proving Jen wrong
today, and it popped in my head, and then we didn't talk about it.
With the bison, you want to?
Yeah, I have a story where it involves bison, and actually technically beefalo, because they did have genetics of domestic cow in them. But basically I'd help out with the bison roundup here because we have some bison.
Wait, did a bison try and fuck you?
No.
Damn it! That's another count I do keep.
So basically what was going on, we called it the meat
horny?
Grinder. What?
Was it engorged?
No.
Did you have to wrestle an engorged bison?
No.
Damn.
So what happened was we had this thing called the meat grinder where we funnel them all in, and then basically the thing is some of them get sold as meat or to other places that will breed them more, because the problem is the location that we have. Well, actually, this is any location. This is why there's not as many wild animals as we think. They're all managed. And so the plot of land that they're on can only support so many, and depending on the rain season, it can go higher or lower. Back when we used to have water out here, it used to be the herd used to be in the hundreds. Now we keep it around 30. Because there's just not that much water. And so we have to round them up, and some of them get sent off. And we have them all separated. We separate the males and the females and the babies. And then the thing was, we had it almost all done. We'd been working on it all day. And then suddenly we have this one last male that just needs to get in with his section. So I am in this thing, and this is, it's basically just made out of lots of sheet metal into like this big spiral thing that with a door that goes into the different sections. We got to get them the right ones in the right spot, which looks like it's organized chaos is what it really is.
It sounds not only difficult, but dangerous too.
The door wouldn't shut. So I tightrope walked on the sheet metal section with thousands and with like 20 or so male bison on one side.
I'm thinking thousands of pounds. Go with thousands of pounds
for sure. And then one who's pissed off and angry on the other side. And like, if I fall there, I'm literally just in a hallway with a pissed off bison. And if I fall the other way, I'm in a big
corral
like thing of 20 angry bison. And I have to go. And the thing is, the door mechanism just wasn't working. So I went tightrope walked and then kicked the door so that it would like, so just imagine one of those like fucking action movies where you're just like, open
up, god damn you!
Trying not to fall.
Remember, don't kick the door, kick through the door. That's what you do.
And then I open the door so that this motherfucker can get in there, and then there's another bison right there. So they just start fighting while I'm trying to balance above them. So till that one goes in, and he finally went in, and then we just I shut the door with my kicking it shut.
Was that a pucker moment for you?
Oh, to say the least. Usually after those moments, I would always say, "Don't tell my wife." I've said that too many times in my life. Don't tell my wife what just happened.
I would guess that would be a supreme pucker moment. I don't know.
Oh God.
What's
puckered beyond
please help us, listeners. If there is a level beyond pucker, the mega pucker, I don't know what you want to call it. Give us that term. We need to use the mega duper pucker or something.
Mega duper super pucker.
Mega super duper pucker.
We'll call it the poop diamond.
I almost want to say
it crushes the carbon of your poop.
You're almost
so strong it becomes a diamond.
I'm thinking it's puckering so far in that it's like poking your stomach. It's like,
oh God,
like I mean, it's already inverted.
The inner pucker.
The super inner pucker.
Yes.
Another diet. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for that. Actually, amusing mental image of you trying to balance on a corrugated steel fence above fighting buffalo.
Yeah, it was. Technically, they were beefalo
whatever.
I think they only had I think they were less than 10%. I can't remember what that.
They were still big, mean, angry, and had a bouffant. Isn't that what?
Oh yeah. They were very angry. Very angry. Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you for joining us. We'll go into something else cool and exotic and fun, or maybe something natural and domesticated. You guys could all learn something about your cat.
And as we
secretly
put these
hates
out, send us comments, send us whatever, and
send us
ideas for future episodes.
And hopefully we're gonna be
Patreon eventually.
We're working on a Patreon so that you can show us.
Maybe the Patreon will be there by the time this episode's out.
I hope it is. You can say that you love us. We're gonna work on some merchandise for you. I'm gonna try and I really there's a lot of kangaroo scrotums out there that don't have a home, and I think they're not being harvested for the scrotums. They're being harvested for the testicles. The scrotum is a byproduct.
Oh no, they're harvested for the scrotums too. They're just harvested. They're just.
I'm thinking about trying to put a byproduct to use. So if you would like we will sign a kangaroo scrotum sack for you. We haven't figured out what Patreon level that is, but we will hand sign.
You want to sign scrotum sacks?
You want to sign, or we can put our logo on it, our WTF logo on it. But you'll know it's from us with love. I think if you go a high enough Patreon, like if you donate a bunch of money to us, I think I can get Whitney to put on some red lipstick and kiss the scrotum sack, and then I'll laminate it for you. So you will have a scrotum sack kissed by Whitney with lips.
You saw my Halloween pictures from a few years ago, didn't you?
It wasn't. You've been doing that Halloween costume for 20 years, man. It's you got to get a new wig. Anyway,
Whoa, now you're bringing up the infamous drag party from our.
Don't you ever change, Whitney. By the way, everybody, gumdrops are the perfect nipple size for Whitney. So if Whitney ever changes and gets breasts for whatever reason, no judgment, gumdrop is the nipple size. Anyway, so love you all. Love that. I really, really hope I get to
25 years ago. And on that note, what the fauna?
So signing off, this is Jen from What the Fauna. No gods, no masters, and we love you all. Mwah.
Bye-bye.